My girlfriend claimed I was neglecting her while cheating with two coworkers. Now, her lies have destroyed everything she tried to build. I 21M need some perspective on what happened with my girlfriend Diana 22F and everything that followed after. I've been dating her for about a year and a half, and honestly, the last few months have been eating me up inside. I keep questioning if I handled things right, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the one in the wrong here. Some background first. Diana and I met during our sophomore year in college through our mutual friend Katie. We were both at this house party and just clicked instantly. She was majoring in business administration while I was studying engineering. After a few weeks of hanging out in our friend group, I finally got the courage to ask her out. Our first date was perfect. We went to this small Italian place near campus and ended up talking for hours. She was funny, smart, and seemed really genuine about her goals in life. Things moved pretty quickly after that. Within 2 months we had the exclusivity talk and officially became a couple. Her family lives about an hour away from our college town and they invited me over for Thanksgiving that year. Her parents are great people. Her dad's a high school teacher and her mom runs a small bakery. They welcomed me like I was already part of the family. Even her sister Trisha, who's usually pretty protective of Diana, said she'd never seen her sister so happy. My family loved her too when they met her at Christmas. My mom kept saying Diana was the kind of girl she always hoped I'd end up with. Everything seemed perfect for the first year. We had the same friend group, similar interests, and we never really fought about anything serious. Sure, we had small disagreements like any couple, but we always worked through them. The problem started around March when I got an opportunity at my warehouse job. They were offering a lot of overtime hours because several people had quit. The base pay is already decent at $19 an hour, but with overtime, I was making almost double that. I saw it as a perfect chance to save up some money. My car was on its last legs. It's a 2008 Honda Civic with over 200,000 miles and constantly needs repairs. Plus, I wanted to take Diana on a surprise trip to the beach for our upcoming 2-year anniversary in August. I started picking up extra shifts, usually working from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. instead of my normal 4 p.m. to midnight shift. The work is pretty physical, loading and unloading trucks, operating forklifts, that kind of stuff. I was tired a lot but the money was worth it. I figured Diana would understand since it was temporary and for our future. At first, she seemed supportive. She'd pack me dinner sometimes or bring coffee to my breaks. But after about a month, things started changing. She became really distant. When I'd text her during my breaks, she'd take hours to respond or just send one-word answers. When we did hang out on my days off, she was always on her phone and seemed annoyed when I tried to talk to her. She started hanging out more with her coworkers from Romano's, this Italian restaurant where she waitresses. I didn't think much of it at first. I was working a lot, so it made sense she'd want to socialize with other people. But then I started noticing little lies. Like one time in April, she told me she couldn't hang out because she was having dinner with Trisha. Later that night, Trisha posted pictures on Instagram from her weekend trip to visit her boyfriend in another state. When I asked Diana about it the next day, she got defensive and said I was keeping tabs on her. Another time in May, she said she had to work a closing shift at Romano's. I thought I'd surprise her with some late-night food since I was off that night. When I drove by around 10:30 p.m., her car wasn't in the employee parking lot. I texted her asking how work was going, and she replied saying they were super busy. I knew she was lying but didn't confront her because I didn't want to admit I'd driven by her work. These little lies kept adding up, but I tried to convince myself I was just being paranoid. I made more effort to show her I cared. I'd use my break times to get her favorite coffee and leave it at her apartment with little notes. On my days off, I'd plan nice dates. We went to that fancy Japanese place she loves, I took her shopping at the mall, we had picnics in the park. Nothing seemed to make her happy anymore. The breaking point came last Friday night. She came over to my place after her shift ended at 9. She seemed tired and fell asleep on my couch around 10 while we were watching a movie. Around 11, her phone kept lighting up with notifications. The phone was face up on the coffee table, and I saw a text preview from someone named Mike with a heart emoji next to his name. I know what I did next was wrong, but something in my gut told me I had to know. She was sleeping facing her phone, so I managed to use her Face ID to unlock it. The texts from Mike went back months. They met at Romano's where he works as a bartender. They started hanging out after shifts in March, right around when I started working overtime. Reading through their conversations made me physically sick. They had inside jokes about how stupid I was working all these hours while she was cheating. Mike knew about the beach trip I was planning. Diana had told him all about how I was trying too hard to keep her interested. There were texts about their hookups at his place after work, about how they had to be careful not to post anything on social media because some of our friends follow them both. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to myself. Then I woke her up and showed her the texts. She started with denial, claiming Mike was just a friend from work. When I scrolled to their explicit messages, she broke down crying and saying it was a mistake. Then she saw that I'd unlocked her phone while she was sleeping, and everything changed. She started screaming that I had violated her privacy. She said I was controlling and toxic for going through her phone. According to her, I drove her to cheat by working so much and neglecting her. She tried to claim we never officially agreed to be exclusive, which is complete BS because we had that exact conversation last year and even celebrated our anniversary. I told her to get out of my apartment. She tried saying she had been drinking at work and couldn't drive. I pulled up her location history showing she drove to my place just fine earlier. I said she could either leave or I'd call Trisha to pick her up. She left crying and yelling about how cruel I was being. Since then, my phone has been blowing up with calls and texts from her. She switches between apologizing and saying she'll do anything to fix things, to getting angry and blaming me for everything. She's gotten some of our friends involved too. Katie and a few others have been texting me saying I should at least talk to her and give her a chance to explain. I haven't responded to anyone. I blocked her on Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat but kept her number unblocked in case she tries to spread lies about me and I need evidence. I'm thinking of just completely ghosting her. I know some people think ghosting is immature, but I honestly don't think I owe her any kind of closure after what she did. Part of me feels guilty for going through her phone while she was sleeping. But my gut instinct was right, she'd been lying to me for months. I'm angry at myself for working so hard to give her a better life while she was sneaking around with someone else. I already canceled the beach house rental and I'm using that money to find a new apartment instead since she knows where I live. Am I wrong for wanting to just ghost her and move on with my life? I feel like anything I say to her will just give her more ammunition to twist things around and make herself the victim. Update 1. It's been about 2 weeks since everything blew up, and somehow things have managed to get even messier than before. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Reading your supportive comments helped me stay strong when I was doubting my decision to cut contact. The first week after I caught Diana cheating was pretty rough. She kept calling from different numbers after I blocked her main one. She'd leave these long voicemails switching between crying about how sorry she was and then getting angry about how I betrayed her trust by going through her phone. I stopped listening to them after the first few and just saved them in case I need proof of harassment later. Diana really didn't take the ghosting well. Last Tuesday, she showed up at my workplace around 11 p.m. right as my shift was starting. I worked night shifts at the warehouse loading trucks, and she knew exactly when I'd be arriving. My supervisor Mark is a really good guy. I had told him about the situation last week when I some shift changes to avoid Diana trying to catch me at work. When security called up to say someone was causing a scene and asking for me, Mark went to handle it himself. She was standing in the employee parking lot screaming my name. When Mark told her to leave, she started crying and saying she just needed 5 minutes to explain everything. Mark told her he'd have to call the police if she didn't leave company property. She started getting hysterical, screaming about how I was ruining her life by ignoring her and that she'd tell everyone what kind of person I really was. Some of my coworkers were arriving for their shifts and saw the whole thing. It was humiliating, but at least they saw firsthand why I've been trying to avoid her. The next day, I got a call from her sister Trisha. I almost didn't answer but I'm glad I did. Turns out Diana had been telling her family a completely different version of what happened. According to her story, I'd been physically aggressive when I kicked her out that night. She claimed I grabbed her arm hard enough to leave bruises and threatened to leak private photos of her if she told anyone about it. She even showed them some bruises, though Trisha later found out they were from Diana's kickboxing class. I was furious. I have never and would never put my hands on a woman or try to blackmail anyone. I sent Trisha all the screenshots I had of Diana's texts with Mike, plus the security camera footage from my apartment building showing Diana leaving that night completely unharmed. Trisha was shocked. She knows I'm not the type of person to be violent, but Diana had been so convincing with her story that they almost believed her. But here's where things get even crazier. The day after Trisha called me, I got a Facebook message from Mike, the guy Diana had been cheating with. He found me through our mutual friends list and wanted to talk. Turns out Diana had been lying to him too. She told him she was single and that I was her obsessive ex-boyfriend who couldn't accept that we were over. She said I was stalking her and that's why she couldn't post about their relationship on social media. Mike sent me months' worth of screenshots of their conversations. Diana had been running an elaborate game on both of us. When she told me she was working late shifts at Romano's, she was actually at Mike's place. When she told Mike she had family obligations, she was with me. She was taking money from both of us too. I had been paying for most of our dates and buying groceries for her apartment, while Mike was paying her car insurance and phone bill because she claimed she was struggling financially. The biggest shock came when Mike mentioned another guy named Chris who also works at Romano's. Neither of us knew about him, but apparently Diana had been seeing him too. She used the same tactics, telling him she was single but had a crazy ex, me, that she had to be careful about. Chris found out about Mike and confronted Diana last week, which is what led to her showing up at my workplace. She was desperate to keep me as her backup plan since both Mike and Chris had dumped her. I took everyone's advice from my last post and got tested for STDs. Had to wait a nerve-wracking week but everything came back negative. Thankfully, I've already put in my 30-day notice at my apartment and found a new place across town. My landlord was understanding about breaking the lease early after I explained the situation, especially since Diana knows where I live and has been showing up unannounced. I also changed my work schedule. Instead of 4 p.m. to 2 a.m., I'm now working 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. Diana used to get off work at Romano's around 10 p.m., so this way our schedules don't overlap at all. My coworkers have been really cool about everything. A few of them even offered to walk me to my car after shifts in case Diana shows up again. Our friend group has pretty much split up over this. Most people are on my side after seeing the evidence, especially now that Mike and Chris have confirmed everything. But Diana's best friend Katie has been on a warpath. She keeps posting vague things on social media about how there are two sides to every story and how ghosting someone shows emotional immaturity. She even tried to say I was the one who cheated first and that's what drove Diana to Mike. I blocked Katie too. I still feel angry sometimes when I think about how hard I was working to save up money for our future while Diana was living this double or triple life. But I know I made the right choice cutting her off completely. Some people have suggested I should expose all her lies publicly, but I think that would just drag this drama out longer than it needs to be. For now, I'm focused on moving forward. I'm still picking up overtime at work, but now I'm saving that money for myself instead of wasting it on someone who didn't appreciate me. I've learned some hard lessons about trust and paying attention to red flags, but at least I found out who Diana really was before things got more serious. Update 2. It's been about 2 months since my last update. I've moved into my new apartment and started settling into a routine without Diana in my life. I thought things were finally calming down, but some new information has come to light that I need to share. Remember how Diana tried to justify her cheating by claiming she had a traumatic childhood? Well, Trisha reached out to me again last week. We met for coffee and she told me some things about Diana's past that explained a lot about her behavior. Apparently, this wasn't the first time Diana has done something like this. Not even close. When Diana was in high school, she dated this guy named Jason for almost 2 years. According to Trisha, when Jason caught Diana cheating with his best friend, she spun this elaborate story about how Jason had been emotionally and physically abusive. She told everyone at their school that Jason had been controlling her, checking her phone, and isolating her from friends. It got so bad that Jason's college acceptance was almost revoked and the rumors reached the administration. The truth only came out when Diana's friend from that time confessed that Diana had asked her to lie about witnessing the alleged abuse. Their parents sent Diana to counseling after that incident, but she only went to 3 sessions before convincing them she was cured. She told them the therapist said she was just acting out due to academic pressure and promised it would never happen again. The therapist actually wanted to dig deeper into Diana's pattern of lying and manipulation, but Diana managed to hide that from her parents. Trisha also revealed that Diana has a long history of stealing money from family members. She would take money from their parents' wallets and when confronted, she'd cry and say she needed it for school supplies or textbooks. She stole their grandmother's credit card information and racked up over $2,000 in online shopping charges. When caught, she claimed she thought her grandmother had given her permission to use it. She even stole $500 from Trisha's graduation money and tried to blame it on their cousin. The most shocking revelation came when Mike did some digging into Diana's background. Remember how she claimed to have finished her business degree online during COVID? Total lie. She actually dropped out 2 years ago after being caught cheating on her finals. She never even started the online program she claimed to be enrolled in. Her parents have no idea, they think she's just working at Romano's to gain experience before starting her career. They've been sending her $800 every month to help with student loan payments that don't even exist. I started wondering about all the money she borrowed from me over the past year for textbooks and online course fees. Between that, the groceries I bought, and all the dates I paid for, I must have spent thousands on her. Mike said he gave her similar amounts for her car insurance and phone bill. Chris, the other guy she was seeing, apparently helped her pay rent several times when she claimed to be short on money. The worst part is that Diana's parents are genuinely good people. Her dad took on extra tutoring jobs and her mom works crazy hours at the bakery to help pay for what they think is their daughter's education. Trisha is torn about whether to tell them the truth. Part of her feels they deserve to know they're being scammed by their own daughter, but she's worried about how devastated they'll be. The situation with Katie, Diana's best friend who had been harassing me, finally resolved itself too. Remember how she was posting all those vague messages defending Diana? Well, she found out last week that Diana had been secretly hooking up with Katie's boyfriend Tom for the past few months. Apparently, that's why Katie was always so quick to defend Diana. Diana had dirt on Tom and was using it to manipulate Katie into taking her side. Katie called me crying to apologize for not believing me. She admitted that Diana had told her all these horrible lies about me being abusive and controlling. Katie had doubts but stayed quiet because Diana threatened to reveal that Tom had cheated on Katie with her. The irony of the whole situation would almost be funny if it wasn't so messed up. Mike and Chris have both reached out to apologize again. We actually met up for beers last weekend and compared notes on all of Diana's lies. It's crazy how she managed to keep 3 different relationships going without any of us catching on sooner. She told each of us a different story about her life and kept all the details straight for months. The level of manipulation is honestly impressive in a really twisted way. I thought finding out about the cheating was bad, but learning about Diana's history of lying and manipulation has been even worse. It makes me question every moment of our relationship and wonder how much of what I knew about her was even real. At least I found out now instead of years down the road. Update 3. It's been 4 months since everything started, and I think this will be my final update. Diana's web of lies finally came crashing down around her in a pretty spectacular way. Everything unraveled when her parents got a call from a debt collection agency. Apparently, Diana had maxed out 3 different credit cards that she'd opened in the past year. She'd been making minimum payments using the money her parents sent for her fake student loans, but when they were a few days late with last month's payment, the collection agency started calling. Her parents were confused because they thought all her credit cards had been paid off when she said she got a scholarship last year. They started asking questions, and the whole house of cards collapsed. They found out about her dropping out of college, the fake online degree, and all the lies about student loans. Her dad was especially devastated because he'd been working overtime at the high school teaching summer classes to help with what he thought were her education expenses. Without her parents' financial support, Diana's lifestyle quickly fell apart. She couldn't keep up the payments on her maxed-out credit cards or her car loan. But instead of facing reality, she tried one last scam at Romano's. She started pocketing cash payments from customers and adjusting their register totals to cover it up. She probably would have gotten away with it if she hadn't gotten greedy and tried to steal from the safe during closing shift. The restaurant owner had already been suspicious because the numbers weren't adding up. He checked the security cameras and caught her in the act. She was fired on the spot and the owner threatened to press charges if she didn't pay back everything she stole. Her parents had to take out a loan to repay the restaurant and avoid their daughter getting arrested. She's moved back in with her parents now, but things are very different. They're making her get a job at the local grocery store and charging her rent. They also insisted she start seeing a therapist for real this time. Trisha says their parents finally realized that enabling Diana's behavior all these years only made things worse. The latest drama is that Diana has been telling people she's writing a book about her experiences being emotionally abused by multiple ex-boyfriends. She even started a GoFundMe claiming she needs money for therapy and legal fees to speak her truth. But no one's buying it anymore. Even her old friends from high school have been commenting with their own stories of her lies and manipulation. Katie, who's now fully team anti-Diana, showed me screenshots of Diana trying to start rumors that I was stalking her at her job. But since I've literally moved to the other side of town and haven't had any contact with her in months, no one believed her. Even her parents shut that down quickly. As for me, things are actually going pretty well. The promotion I mentioned in my last update came with a significant pay raise. I'm still working overtime, but now I'm saving for myself instead of trying to fund someone else's lies. My new apartment is in a secure building with good security cameras, so I don't have to worry about unexpected visits. I'm still dealing with some trust issues from everything that happened, but I'm working through it. It's still hard to wrap my head around how someone could lie so easily about everything in their life. But I'm grateful I found out who she really was before things got more serious. To everyone who supported me through this and encouraged me to stay strong with the no-contact approach, thank you. You were right that engaging with her would only have dragged me deeper into her games. Sometimes burning bridges completely is the best way to move forward.